It's the conversation. It's the conversation. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Let's go. Let's go. No filter, no restrictions. You about to get my opinion in this purest form. So my words, don't try to spin them. What I said is what I said. And what I said, I meant it. The gloves are off now when I'm coming out swinging. So engage in verbal combat, but you better be ready. Cause this here for me is light work, even if the topic's heavy. I'm ready for it all with no running from nothing. You just take the time to digest what I put in, no rushing. But time is moving, don't waste it. You want the real, come and face it. Come sit and talk to me if you want it straight without a chaser. And it might burn a little when you step on up to taste it. But it's nothing harsh, I promise. Just a little conversation.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation with Harold and Dave. I am Keone. We have Dave, we have Harold, and we have our last episode for 2025. How do y'all feel about that?
Hey,
The end of,
we made it.
You know what? I didn't realize until I looked back on the first episode. I didn't realize we've been doing this since 2021. We've been doing this for 4 years.
Wow.
That's crazy. And this has probably been the most exhausting year of all of them.
Oh, my goodness.
well, not for this, but just in general. I mean, this is not a real pressing gig. But the year has been certainly.
Right. This is not a high maintenance gig. Us sitting around talking about our facts, because I see a lot of shows they talk about opinions. Somebody asked me, we do get this a lot. Someone say that you two agree way too much, and I'm like, well, that just means you don't watch all the shows. They disagree sometimes, but they're just not yelling at each other.
Yeah. Somebody go first. Somebody go.
No, I'm just saying. You guys have had disagreements. You've had disagreements. You've said, "Hey, I'm gonna push back on that a little bit, Harold." And Harold has said, "Well, Dave, I see your point, but I disagree." And he'll disagree with you, but it's because you guys aren't yelling at each other and calling each other names. You guys never disagree.
Yeah, part of it is just not having a certitude that you're right. And being open to, hey, this is what I think, and I need to be open to, I could be wrong, and if you give me something factual or a different point, a new way of thinking, it doesn't, because not everything is fact. A lot of it is thinking and judgment and assessment and theory, connection of facts, and so we get differing things, and so I think I don't know, I'm a professor, so I come at it generally from that point of view, but also the thing of, like, if you have a different idea from me, you aren't evil.
Well, that
I mean,
wait. So Harold's not the enemy within Harold and Dave?
No, if I disagree, Harold's a decent guy. I've actually never met Harold, but by he's the uncle of a friend of mine, and therefore I defer. And I think he's like, you're a friend of my nephew's, so I won't speak for him. I'll let him fly his own plane.
Well, my thing is, if there's a need or a reason to push back, then you push. It doesn't have to necessarily be toxic. I guess they're looking for, some of that, I guess you could say, what was it, the moms of whatever Friendly Valley, or whatever the,
Moms of Liberty.
No. The TV shows where they have the women,
all the housewives,
wives of something. Yeah,
Orange County.
they're looking for drama, and I'm not dramatic. I didn't go to acting school. I went to seminary and a few other colleges, but that's it.
Well, I mean, some people might confuse seminary with acting school, but I digress.
Steve McGill has joined.
Speaking about pushback, this is the most pushback I've seen from a lot of before when people in MAGA have pushed back against Trump. People have said, it's just a couple of people and they weren't really in MAGA anyway, or these are lefties that are pretending to be MAGA and now just making dramatic turns. But a lot of the pushback has happened because the president can't get out of his own way of not turning off constantly people that support him. And one of the things that is pissing some of them off is the continuing narrative of affordability is a Democrat hoax. It's not real. So you ran on a platform that from day one, I'm putting prices down, and now we're a year in, and it's, that's a Democrat hoax. It's not a real thing.
Well,
Nothing's affordable except for me because I'm a billionaire.
yeah, but he used the same verbiage for Epstein. Now Epstein's a hoax. Meanwhile, the pictures keep coming out. Those photo dumps, I'm loving them every time, because they're just getting closer and closer to where we want to go, what we want to see. But, my thing is when it does not fit his agenda or let him be perceived in a certain light, he wants to say it's fake, it's a hoax, it's this, it's that. It's everything but truth. And that's the danger of someone like him and those that follow him.
And it's this thing of they just absolutely made that bet, right? I mean, he campaigned on it, and I've seen some people comment that this was the mission of the cult, amongst the people who are in it, that they were going to get the Epstein files, and then they were going to find out that all these Democrats were pedos, and they were going to lock them up. And so this, it was in that universe very central in ways that maybe we didn't perceive it as being, or some people contend, their perspectives on this, but and then he tries to go back on it. And the thing is, he goes back on, a core mission. And that really, has hurt people. And so, but also it's not just Epstein files, right? I mean, he's been having moments where he's turning people off in his own media space, right? Because before, he would say things that would be incendiary outside, right, to our eyes. But now he's doing things within his own world. He goes to Charlie Kirk's memorial and talks about hating everyone. And, yeah, I hate them. And the thing is, we're all like, yeah, I mean, we've seen this guy hate on everyone. I mean, he's hated from the minute he came down the gold escalator and talked about immigrants as rapists and murderers. That sounds pretty hateful. I watched his inauguration the first time, or his speech for his candidacy, accepting the nomination, and America Carnage and all that crap. But for them, that it hit different, and they had a different explanation. But then he just comes out and says it boldly at Charlie Kirk, and so a lot of people drop off then. And then he does stuff like Rob Reiner, most recently. That was just. What I think what was key about that is not just that he said what he said. It's that a lot of right-wing influencers had been out already posting things like, well, we're not going to say anything bad. You said bad stuff about Charlie Kirk. We're going to respect Rob Reiner. And a lot of, that was the talking point. And the Republicans, Harold says it a lot. Democrats suck at messaging, right? And Republicans used to be good at it, and so they kind of coalesce around a message almost spontaneously. And this is where I think the message was bubbling up. This is how we're going to play this, and then dipshit comes in and is far worse than anything anybody said, and he is really hard to disavow. And so they look at it and they go, "Hey, you made us look bad because we just said the exact opposite." And so plane landing.
Well, there's a big reason why he made them look bad, because he kept talking about the left and after Charlie Kirk and what they were saying, but you can't point out any Democratic political person that were saying these things. It was all people, normal, everyday citizens on the internet making fun of Charlie Kirk's death. It wasn't Jasmine Crockett. It wasn't it wasn't Joe Biden. It wasn't Democratic people. It was everyday people. So I hate that they kept spinning this narrative that this is what the Democrats do. Number one. And that's, and then you get it on this side. And like you said, they said, well, we're not going to say anything. And then the commander in chief goes ahead and says all of these things, which were totally unnecessary. He could have said nothing, which is impossible. You know that what did Ron White say when he was drunk? He had the right to remain silent, but he didn't possess the ability. It's like you can't stop him. Being a person that's in charge of him, media wise, is a nightmare.
He also said you can't fix stupid, but that's another conversation, I guess.
Well, you also said people turning, but of course you still have the faithful. I watch a lot of interviews, and the thing that always enamors me is there was a guy, they were, the typical YouTuber going around and interviewing MAGA people. And so they talked about the affordability and how it's not going down. And the guy said, well, he did say he's got to get in and fix it. And I'm like, yeah, that's what he said on the news, but he never tells you how he's going to fix it. He just says, I got to fix it. Joe Biden and Obama have screwed this thing up and I got to fix it. What the hell does that mean?
Well, it means I'm just going to bring up an issue, whether it's true or false, just to, again, deflect away from what the real issue may be at hand at that particular time. And that's what the Republican Party has enabled him to do consistently, allowed him to get away with it. And unfortunately, just as many are single issue voters, they are single issue supporters as well. As long as they know he supports this one particular issue, they'll remain faithful. The moment he goes against whatever issue, and it's happened, and that's why, as Dave alluded to earlier, that's why some people have fallen off the wagon, because that one issue that they may have affixed themselves to him with, he turned around and did something different, and that's why he's losing a lot of the Hispanic vote. That's why he's losing a lot of different people in a lot of different areas. Even, a number of women groups are now against him because even when you look at the education piece where they branded the degrees as non-professional versus professional. Well, most of those are women-led industries. And that's going to impact not only them, but their ability to get student loan relief, to apply for anything of that nature. Because again, he's just literally made them ineligible for a number of things, which means they got a choice. I don't go to college and minimize my employability, or I do go to college and incur all of this debt that I can't get rid of. So it's something that he's really digging a hole for himself with a shovel while standing at the bottom of it, as opposed to trying to do what he can to lift up America and potentially make America again.
Well, like you said, getting a lot of people to turn against him that voted, a lot of black MAGA has been turning on him, which is, Dave looked at the thumbnail and said, that's just wrong when he just saw the black guy with the MAGA hat. I'll let you get into that in a second, Dave. But CVS has gone through a slew of settlements because they had a lot of cancellations of projects. And what was happening were heads of departments were going to the staff and saying, we've got to let you go. We're doing cutbacks because of the merger that's coming up, right? And then what happened is all the black people that were getting laid off were going to their Caucasian counterparts and says, hey, did they cut you too? No, they said we had to move to another department because of DEI. Yes, because of threats. And it's just crazy. So Dave, one of the things that he's losing is people who voted for him simply because they just vote Republican, not because they love Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, there were that, but I think Harold had a point about people having an issue, right?
A single issue.
A single issue. And so I think, what Trump brings to the party is he brings the people who don't just vote Republican. He brings the people who have an issue. And he brings a lot of people who would vote Republican, but Republicans have been too, haven't been extreme enough, right? And he mobilizes a lot of people that the traditional conservative, the George Will type of erudite, white collar, Wall Street friendly Republicanism. Basically my family, my history. Um, but he brings in people that weren't like that. And the thing is, though, and shout out to Heather Cox Richardson for this analysis. But he brings together a lot of disparate elements that don't agree with each other. And so that one issue thing that Harold said is so important, because yes, a lot of them have an issue, but they all don't have the same issue. And he brings a lot of people with different issues together. And then he promised everybody everything. He made promises that could never be kept, and not just ending Ukraine on the war in Ukraine on the first day. I mean, there were a bunch of those impractical ones, but then he had a lot of contradictory ones. We're going to deport people, but only the really bad ones. But we're going to deport massive numbers of people. And, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, dog whistle. We're going to, get rid of massive, massive numbers of these folks. And that doesn't square, right? Those two things don't square. And there were a lot of things that he would promise one thing to one group, and then say, but we're not going to do this one. And of course he gets in and the guardrails are off and somebody wins the policy argument, right? So somebody wins. Russ Vought and Stephen Miller in particular. And the more pro-Israeli crowd, definitely, right? All of those people win. And so all the other folks are like, who don't agree with those issues, are now fracturing. And like I say, but then he betrays on one of his core issues. We can't forget the Epstein file is what really shocks, it breaks people loose. But under that, there are other issues. And, he's pursuing undeclared war against Venezuela. That is the opposite of what he promised. Right. And, he's going to lose more people with that kind of stuff as he goes on. And so this point goes to the impracticality of governing with this contradictory coalition. And it also goes to the idea that he can't be replaced, because he brought a bunch of people together that normally don't come together, and you aren't going to get them back together under JD Vance or whoever. And so I think that's important part of the puzzle.
Oh, Harold, I thought you were going to say something because you were shaking your head. So I thought you were going to immediately say something.
No, I wasn't in disagreement. I was just,
well, you guys don't disagree, remember?
I got a lot of that thinking from Heather Cox Richardson, and I'm like, well,
did you freeze?
Yeah, I thought it was me, but I guess not. It's him.
No, you freezed earlier, and then you kept talking. Now he freezed. So I guess we're playing hot potato freeze.
Oh wow!
But the stuff that's happening in Venezuela is crazy, and now we're playing playing hot potato on who didn't know that there were 2 survivors were still there and called in another missile. We did that hot potato, and of course,
ain't gonna release the video though.
American people they just got their budget approved, so almost $1 trillion, and and over 60% of it goes to contractors, as opposed to paying military personnel a better salary for the sacrifice. Yeah,
me being 20 years in the Army, and no, it's on what you were saying. Me being 20 years in the Army and Dave being there, it's one of the things military people talk about all the time. Even when I was combat arms, air defense, and when I was a Cav Scout, the only thing I saw a lot was I'd see a lot of, especially in Iraq, I'd see a lot of civilian drivers that they're paying six figures to drive trucks, but we have soldiers who can drive those trucks, right? That don't even make a fraction of that. When I switched to the dental field towards the end, you know, I'm running a clinic, a 33 chair clinic, and 10% of my dentists are military dentists, and the other ones are civilians making a lot more money than the military dentists. And it's like, why? You have people who want to join the military, and you have people that want to do all these jobs in the military, because there's people out here that think everybody in the military just carries a gun in their infantry. No, every job that's in the civilian world is basically in the military, right, Dave?
Yeah,
for the most part.
I had to make sure you were. Yeah, but yes, the military has some Yeah,
just
right.
about.
The military has jobs that aren't in
For the
the
most part.
civilian world, but they also have almost everything from the civilian world in the military.
Right. And you're paying them a fraction of what you're paying the civilians. And we're always talking about the military budget, but yet you will pay a civilian 10 times sometimes what you're paying that soldier to do the same damn job.
Yeah, I
It's
will
always been a thing.
to push back just a little. Speaking of pushback,
You can push back. It pisses me off, but you can push back.
well, there's a reason for this, though, is that when you go in the military, they teach you how to do that shit. And if they hire a dentist, the dentist paid his own way,
Yeah.
right? And so,
Not
the
necessarily.
difference in price differential can be the fact that, hey, we trained you for this, and now you're paying off your debt.
Well, we
Whereas
trained you for
civilian dentist is paying off a debt that he incurred to get it, and that's a rationale, or that's a point
So-
to consider.
That's a rationale,
then my
but I
question-
mean, you want to train me for 2 years, and after 2 years of training me, you mean to tell me you want me to spend 18 years where you pay me ridiculously lower than what the median is to pay this job, but you will hire a civilian in that same exact job and pay him an exorbitant amount of money to do that same job? I get it. You're saying it's a rationale. You're not saying it's the right rationale, but you're saying it's a rationale.
It's a factor.
Yeah.
And they didn't ask you to stay 18 years. They told you had to stay. You had, when you went through the training, presumably you were enlisted at that
Well,
point?
no,
or
I'm not
you were an
saying they
officer
told me to
then?
stay 18 years, but what I'm saying is if you make, military career, of course, you get up there, you'll make some good money, but you know what you make between the rank of private and staff sergeant. I mean, come on. So as
But then
compared to your civilian,
Actually, more than
for
I made
instance,
for
I
lieutenant.
ran the clinic. I had the clinical operator. I forgot the name of it, but my civilian counterpart to run that clinic as a staff sergeant running the clinic, and that civilian counterpart, if you put our paychecks next to each other, mine's embarrassing. And we're doing the same job.
But I guess my question is, if I choose to go in, get the training, whether it be a certification, licensure, or degree, get out, and then contract back with.
They do that.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, it seems to me that you're better off going that particular route than to sit up there and stay in the military, be underpaid and underappreciated in many respects,
That's kind of where I was
as
going.
opposed to doing the other.
They do that and they hire each other. There's two things they do. They come in, they get the training, and then they leave and start their own practice. And now you're losing. We could do a whole show on that.
Yeah, we are digressing dramatically from the point.
Yeah, but
Let's get
that's
back.
okay.
I never thought I'd say this. Let's get back to talking about Trump.
Hey, it is called the conversation. So, never minding all the things that were supposed to end after day one, and Fox was doing a little pushback on him, but they've kind of like righted that ship, because now I go in there and I keep hearing them talk about conspiracy theorists with Obama. I'm like, Obama's back again. We're kicking the tires on everything Obama might have done wrong now. And it's like everyone's just deflecting on how crappy this has been for an entire year. And you look forward to it in 2026. Whoa, what does it say? Most dildo officers had their education paid for by the military in exchange for an 8-year commitment. The only time civilians should be employed is if the billets are unfilled. Oh, I get what you're saying. If there's a need for it.
I'm just
We're
trying
not
to
saying don't hire
parse
civilians. We
that
know
off.
when the military comes into a town, they boost the economy of that town. That's opening jobs for everybody because there's PXs on base, shopettes, and all those things. But anywho, oh yeah,
I was
okay.
too
Thank you
small
for
to be a
explaining what
dildo.
dildo is because I didn't want to get a strike. Dildo, direct input limited duty officers. Okay, did he just make that up? Is that a real thing?
I don't know.
And I definitely don't know, but I was getting ready to go log off. But I get this conversation going. Just not want to be a part of that conversation. That's all.
Really, that's what you're worried about, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
listen. Listen.
Um,
But let
yeah, we'll circle back.
get
All
back
right,
on
Dave,
track,
get us back
please,
on track,
please.
Dave. Get us back on track.
Where was the track? We were heading into Black MAGA.
Okay, yes, we were heading into Black MAGA, or what me and Harold called the grifters, or the new big grifter, because Brandon Tatum, Harold, I almost had an aneurysm. He
Oh,
did an
no.
interview.
Tatum?
Oh, no.
Yeah, Officer Tatum did an interview where he talked about, let's talk about it. Blacks commit 67% of the crimes, but they're like 70% of the exonerations. When you look at white crime, the black crime, it's about proximity. Poor white people commit just as much crimes as black poor people. So it's not about race, it's about economics. I'm like, what? What just happened? What just happened? Because Officer Tatum, if you don't know who that is, Dave,
Yeah,
you know who Officer
I've
Tatum
been
is?
seeing vids about him.
Yeah. So now he's doing these videos explaining that black on black crime is a myth, is what he said in the last interview. So I'm like, I don't
Because,
know what's happening to the world. He's done that. He's done a whole shift, but now he's being overtaken by Stephen A. Shit because Stephen A. Smith is now throwing his hat into every political opinion. And he does this thing where he's a Democrat, but all he does is blast the Democrats and tell them how terrible they are. So he does that disguise.
but my primary issue with him is he doesn't do any homework.
No, not at all.
He does no research.
Not
So
at
a
all.
lot of what he's saying what was the thing that was recently with the policy where the Democrats were telling them not to follow an unlawful order?
Yes,
And he jumped on Mark Kelly and really went in and you're wrong for this, you're wrong for that. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's military code, dude. I mean, come on. Just a little bit. I mean, Google is free. Chat GPT might shake his hand and help him out, but he did zero research. And now he got dog walked by a lot of people because of it. But the fact is it was avoidable. Why jump on something, not do your homework? Or is it that somebody wrote you that check and you're willing to put yourself out there as long as that bag makes it to the bank?
Well, Dave, the people that did that, just like Stephen A. did, they would always leave out the word unlawful. They would just say, how can you tell soldiers not to follow an order? They just kept leaving out the word unlawful on purpose.
I didn't know you needed to do homework. All you needed to do was listen and hear that one word that they repeated. I would like to know how many times they said unlawful in that video. But they said it as many times as they said the word order. I
Yeah,
guarantee
if you
that.
took a shot
As
every
many
time
times as
they
necessary.
if you took a shot every time they said unlawful, you'd be blacked out.
Oh, man. And I don't even drink.
I
guess
just needed
that'd be
to say it like 3 times and I'd be gone. But
Uh,
that's a personal problem.
to explain that to civilians, when I was air defense artillery, I had a private in my turret. We shot down planes. We recognized the planes, VACR, and if it's an enemy plane and it's somewhere not supposed to be, we shoot it down. If I give him an order to shoot that plane down and he shoots it down and it was friendly, we're both screwed. If I give him an order to shoot that plane down and he recognizes it's non-hostile and he does it and he goes back and forth with me, the only person at the end of the day who's in trouble is me.
you. Right.
My private can override me, even though I outrank him and I'm the team leader on that truck, because that's an unlawful order.
And yeah, and I mean that was again so absurd that you're going to suggest that people who are and I thought it was beautiful when they came up with Pete Hegseth talking about saying exactly what they said before.
Exact same thing.
I thought you should get a DoD training film and like split screen it, right? Because there's got to be a training film where they're telling people not to do this shit. Um, and and
But
now in doing your homework too, you could have done your homework and found that because a lot of people came out, even congressmen
Mhm.
who should know better. Is it Crenshaw, the guy who's a veteran, lost his eye?
Mhm.
Um, he was like, "Well, we would kill everyone when we attacked a terrorist cell," and it's like, yes, because that's the law of land warfare, and if one of them gets away, they are still a threat. And the law of sea warfare says that a shipwrecked person is out and is not fair game, is completely, because they are at sea.
right,
And it's very different if you can evade in terrain and get back in the fight if your boat is sunk. Usually the idea in the sea warfare is that when you lose the boat, you're basically without any means to fight anymore. And
but
so they, that's where a little bit of research would have come in to say, hey, that's why there's this, if you thought about it at a level where there seemed to be a contradiction. Um, and it seems like Pete Hegseth isn't to that level. And yet, and he certainly had people around him. Everyone in the Navy knows this. Believe
Mhm.
me. you know, uh,
power and position changes people, unfortunately. But how do we justify the order when you're eight, almost 1,800 miles away from America?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Harold.
I'm sorry.
I'm
Chris,
sorry, what happened?
Chris, no, Chris made us laugh. He said, "You're goddamn right. I ordered the code red."
And I would point out that in the end of that movie, the Marines were still court-martialed, not for the crime of hurting the guy, but for conduct unbecoming. Because the upshot at the end of that movie. We're talking about A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise,
Yeah,
Jack Nicholson.
yeah. For you, those of you who are young, we're not talking about the soda code red. He's
Oh,
talking about
wow.
a movie.
Yeah, we're talking about, but the upshot of the movie was the Marines were, and they're like, we should have known that order was wrong,
You
and
can't handle the truth.
we should have disobeyed it. Oh, by the way, major movie concept that these guys were saying. So it's actually in our popular culture if you pay attention. But I, anyway, Harold, you were saying, I'm sorry. Damn you,
But
Chris,
again,
for
when
being
we look at
interesting with your
the other
comment.
factors for me is how do we justify going 1,800 miles alleging that these boats are coming to America when there was no evidence of that, and we're still popping off rounds and sinking boats and killing folks?
And apparently we knew the boat wasn't coming to America. Apparently,
Now, I'm
if
not
you
just
knew
talking
what
about that one. We've
it was,
had several that
it was,
weren't coming to America,
yeah.
and
I
not
mean,
even close.
if you know now, I mean, if you knew where it was going, then what you know now is what you knew then, right? That
Right.
you had
There's this thing called
intel,
trajectory.
and it was going to a boat that was going to go to Suriname. All right, what the hell is that going to do? And I mean, really, that's not coming to us. It's not carrying fentanyl, which was the argument that's what's killing people. And uh, so it's just absurd that we have these things. Meanwhile, with Venezuela, we are now, talking about, blockading, seizing sanctioned tankers, which is honestly fine with me because they are the key, again, like the illegal order thing. The key word here is sanctioned tankers. These are tankers that are sanctioned as having evaded tariffs, and it is within the realm of what a nation state can do to say, hey, you guys have violated illegally, we're seizing you. And they actually got a warrant, right? This might be the most legal thing the Trump administration has done in seizing that first tanker.
I'm not
But
saying that.
you've embedded this action in murder, because that's what it is, right? You've been murdering people. If you want a sanitizer extrajudicial killings, but and then you're calling drugs a weapon of mass destruction, which is absurd. You created
We're
narco
functional.
terrorists. You've created, it's
Narco
like
terrorists.
Antifa. They created some kind of cartel that doesn't exist. It's
Hmm.
a name that journalists have attached, like the Brat Pack, right? And Antifa, and it's whatever the name they have for the supposed cartel. You're making all this shit up, and so when you actually get around to doing something that might have a public policy interest that might be justifiable, you shit the bed. You've basically already lost your credibility, and and so it's just the worst public policy, worst foreign policy we've seen in a long time.
You want to hear my conspiracy theory?
Uh-oh.
Please.
Maria Corina Machado. Is this the man child having a temper tantrum because she won the Nobel Peace Prize?
Lord have mercy.
That's my conspiracy. I mean, it sounds really silly, but would you put it above it?
No. I mean, weirder things have happened. So, I mean, hey, with this administration, you don't know what's liable to pop off.
But in his defense, we also have blown up boats in the Caribbean. So
he's kind of had it in for Venezuela for a while now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to say Tren de Aragua and all that crap. He's had it, in for them for a while. But the thing is, though, we are also, we're looking at a guy who's going to come on here. Yeah, 3,000-mile trip with 2 outboards. Yeah, no, these are.
That's true.
The thing is that this guy's going to, in 20 minutes from now, going to start spewing, talking about stuff. And there is Tucker Carlson is saying he's going to announce a war on Venezuela. And well, I don't know about Tucker Carlson.
Forget about Congress then, okay.
But I think it's more likely he's going to try to tout his achievements. Actually, I think it's more likely he will start to do so and go off script and weave incoherently, but we'll see. The thing about it, this guy's got dementia, okay? I mean, come on. And he has clearly got diminishing cognitive ability. And there is a theory out there that a lot of this is, what we're seeing is that he is being managed. And I don't know if you saw today, they put plaques. He's in the colonnade going past the Rose Garden to the Oval Office. He's had the presidential walk with these gaudily framed pictures of other presidents.
Still have the Rose Garden?
What was the Rose Garden? It's now the Rose concrete slab. I mean, no, I saw a picture of it today. And it's just a concrete slab. It's not even like inlaid with shit. It's like this. It looks like an empty pool, but in 2 dimensions.
He's leaving an imprint. What can we say?
Yeah, but they have now put plaques underneath the photos of presidents. Most of them are photos of presidents. For Biden, it's a picture of the auto pen, which is bad enough. But they're plaques describing these guys, and Trump must have dictated it, or somebody tried to do it, because they're all just nasty depictions, of sleepy Joe Biden and Barack Hussein Obama. And so he has these plaques under each president talking about them in really bad terms. And the thing is that there's this one theory that he has dementia, and that the destruction of the East Wing, things like these plaques, this is the equivalent of an adult coloring book, that his staff is doing these things to placate him while getting him to be malleable to do what they want him to. And kind of the argument is like Stephen Miller and Russ Vought are in there. And so I think he does have these problems. And if he has the prefrontal lobe, if that goes, would explain his increasing lack of filter. I mean, he never had a good filter to begin with.
This is why I was afraid of him having dementia, because I've never thought dementia would be used to be able to have somebody cop out from being a terrible person. If they could pick anybody, dementia or not, to control or do these things, he would be the perfect person. Yeah. I've always said this: presidents, when they're presidents, tend to do things sometimes not based on their political views, but their experiences in life, right? I'll give you two prime examples. John F. Kennedy is known as the civil rights president, but if you really know your history, it ain't him. He was very scared to do anything. It was Lyndon B. Johnson behind the scenes doing everything, and especially when he became president. But Lyndon B. Johnson did these things and had such a push for it, not because he was just a moral person, his experience of watching communities growing up. It's crazy that Ronald Reagan, for as many policies he put in place that hurt people like me, he had the biggest tax breaks of any president in the history of the presidency. Ronald Reagan of the Republican Party. Why? Because he was an actor. And when he was an actor, what used to happen when you made a certain amount of money, at the time that he was acting, it was the highest tax rates in the country. If he made over a certain amount of money and then he went out and made $200,000 for a film, about 99% of that would be taxed. What does he do when he becomes president? He makes the biggest tax break in the entire world. So now you have this guy who spent the 70s and 80s being misogynist, being a racist, being an overall jerk, and he becomes president. What did you expect?
It is, he's going back to what he knew then.
That's where the regression from the dementia is. He's regressing back. And this is easy for him. This stuff is easy for him because it's in his nature. He doesn't have to fight it.
The question, though, is where does Venezuela come from? Right? What if Venezuela is coming out of this as a policy, then somebody, if you're going to go with this theory that he's a puppet, where does Venezuela come from?
Where does Venezuela come from? Right. Because that energy needs to be spent on ending this war in Ukraine that's supposed to end that everybody kind of forgot about.
Which is an argument against the theory, by the way. I mean, so we don't know what's going on. We have ideas.
Yeah,
but
right.
I landed on Harold there. I'm sorry, Harold. You were going to say something.
He landed on Harold.
So big. But it isn't Venezuela is where we were sending, 20, 40 billion?
No, that was Argentina, wasn't it? It was Argentina.
Argentina?
Billion.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other. Let me get back to Venezuela.
Wait, it was millions or hold on. We got to correct something. Millions, not billions, right?
Billions.
Was it billions?
Yeah, it's 20 billion.
Billions.
It was 20 billion.
Yeah, 20 million ain't going to help Venezuela.
No.
Harold, did you just do the thing where you mixed up all the South America countries? Harold, did you do that?
No, I was just trying to remember which country it was that was also having, because he's messing with so many of them. Hell, next we'll be tackling Colombia.
Because if you were in this administration, you'd be deporting Venezuelans to Argentina. So let's make sure we get it right.
They'll send them to Sweden somewhere. I don't know. We don't know. They'll send them somewhere. We'll figure it out.
They're going to send them to Liberia or Somalia or Djibouti or, because Latin America, people from Central America, I mean, they'll do well in Africa, right?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, when we look at this, it's all about money with him. Mm-hmm. I mean, one thing I didn't touch on when we talked about the Department of Defense and their budget, the whole 9 yards, is there was an article that said $620 million contract was given to a firm that one of his sons happens to be connected to or works for. And that's the largest ever contract ever awarded to a third party by the Department of Defense. So when we go stepping back and looking at all of this stuff, it's all about dollars and cents. And see, he wants to control Venezuela. He wants to control the world, if truth be told. I just believe he's a globalist. He wants to use his muscle to impact and affect as many different countries as he can for his own personal benefit and the benefit of his family. But when it comes to Venezuela, you're using now drugs as your primary rationale for the actions that he's taking. And now he's, I'm looking at military personnel. I guess those were military personnel, coming down from a helicopter, and taking that particular tanker. It's just disturbing the direction that we're going. But more importantly, what's more disturbing to me is Republicans are enabling him and allowing him to do this and just standing by the sidelines, staying quiet, which at the end of the day, I've already told Democrats, if you don't blame everything on the Republican Party, You're missing your opportunity to having a landslide in 26 and 28. They're going to, in 28, when he's no longer able to run, because they're not going to, I don't think they're going to push the envelope that far. They are going to then try to distance themselves and say, well, that was the Trump administration. We didn't agree. That was the Trump administration. And by that time, it's a little too late. So Dems have an obligation when we talk about messaging to push that envelope, in my opinion. And I've told it to several within the party. And whether they take that advisement or not, that's a whole nother
Well,
story.
there's no face. When's the last time do you and correct me if I'm wrong, because it hasn't been to me for a while. What's the last time you looked at the Democratic Party and you said this person is the face of the Democratic Party nationally?
First of all, the Democrat Party has to follow certain protocols. There's certain protocols. I just had a
I know,
conversation.
I get that,
Hold on. When we talk about a face, usually the person who's the vice president is supposed to ascend. But when you violate that and you decide to put someone else in, and I'm not talking about 2024, I'm talking about 2016 now. I realize Bo had just died, but rather than the party allowing Joe Biden to make that decision, they had already decided they were going to prop up Hillary. Well, I didn't realize how many bridges were burned by Hillary and the Clintons. One, as it relates to Haiti and the earthquake and what happened with the money that was raised, so on and so forth, and them not doing what they had purposed to do, but also looking at the fact that there were other issues going on with her, as not just her as a candidate, because I didn't realize the number of Democrats that just didn't care for her at that particular time. But had they allowed Joe Biden to come out and say, due to my son, death, grief, whatever, he's not running, now the party can then put together primaries, so on and so forth, and allow others to become the face. But when you continue to do things out of order, you will never have a face, because today you're jumping over here, tomorrow you're jumping over here.
Oh,
And even in Florida, the last two governor cycles, including this one, we've had a former Republican who became Democrat that wanted to run for governor.
Okay, you just Donald Trump me. You still didn't answer my question.
What's that? There is no face. I just said there is no face.
No, not now. I said who do you remember as the last face of the Democratic Party?
I would say Clinton, or if not Obama. I mean, Obama's the most recent, but that's as far Obama and Clinton as far back as you can go.
Yeah, that's
right now. Right now, you have Crockett. That's probably, and Newsom would be the faces that you see for the most part. I think Bashir, if he decides to get back into the running, but right now you don't have a clear face because there's so many conversations going on.
Okay.
Zohran is Mandami is almost as much a face or prominent.
Yeah.
Of course, Democrats don't unite. I mean, it is in the nature of the left to be diverse, to be, of different minds about things. They don't unify around a figure that's authoritarian. And so Republicans, that's why they can't understand why, they don't own the Democrats when they say, "Oh, well, Clinton is at Epstein's Island and he might get it." It's like, yeah, go ahead, throw. A lot of people are like, yeah, if they're Democrats in the Epstein's file, let's lock those guys up too, because there isn't that unity.
We'll see it. Right, we'll see it in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Well, look at Al Franken. I mean, Al Franken, a couple of pictures of him making crude gestures to an army person. Oh, you're out of there, buddy.
No crime.
I'm going to put this on the screen, but guys, you don't have to read it out loud.
Uh-oh.
Do not read it out loud. Yeah. So that'll go away. All right. So
does that mean he never sleeps? Anyway.
Oh, wow. I'm glad I didn't read what it says. I didn't read it.
Well, listen, Dave, I don't know if you've ever known about this, but one of the problems the RNC has is every time they have a convention, there's this app called Grindr, and it always basically shuts down. It literally, it's like, I never understood. Well, yeah, I do understood. It's always the people who talk the loudest about certain things are the ones who are participating in those acts the most, which
And
is, you know,
and
But
there
the
is the
same,
idea that people who are gay or bisexual might be the ones who would say being gay is a choice and you need to
Mhm.
choose not, I mean,
Yeah.
um, I don't believe it's a choice because honestly, I've never looked at a dude and been like, yeah, baby. It just never occurred to me. And so, the thing is that these guys who maybe at sometimes have been attracted to men, you know, and so there's a lot of latency there. And so, yeah, they get out of town and they become geographic bachelors
Mhm.
and grinder. Um,
Yeah, because at the end of
yeah.
the day, no one chooses
geographic
to be.
bachelors.
No one chooses to be something that could be ostracized by society. They did a study a long, long time ago. It was like 20 something years ago, and I can't remember um, what the study was, but during different decades, they would take several groups of African Americans and they would ask them this survey question of, would you rather be black or would you rather be white? And the answers to that survey would always be dictated by the times. For instance, in the 70s, what do you think the majority of the answer was? In the 70s and 60s, I'd rather be black. That was black proudness, say it loud, blah, blah, blah. When they did it in the 80s, an overwhelming one of them anonymously said, I would rather have been born white. Why? Because they feel like life would have been easier. So that's my point of when you say choice, who wants to say, hey, I could choose to be straight and no one would say anything about me, or I could choose to be gay and just be, have everyone's opinion in my face constantly. I'm not saying everybody thinks like that, but that survey, I remember seeing it when I was in college and it was like, what?
I don't think I've ever met a gay man who uh, didn't say, to go back is, yeah, I didn't want to be this. And they actually, homosexuals tend to have heterosexual sex earlier.
Uh-huh.
Statistically, they have it earlier because they're really trying not to be.
Yeah.
And certainly, so I just, from again, I know people, right? This is their problem is a lot of folks, they don't know, they haven't got that experience, and they don't see it. They don't see that these are people. They don't see that they don't want to have deviant sex all the time. They want to live a normal life. They want to find someone. They want to be happy. They want to raise a family, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
also
what
a
it's
thing. Yeah.
about. But they portray them as
Mhm.
groomer, and and it is just absurd.
Mhm. Well, I'll
uh
give you a perfect example. Then I have a question for both of you from the audience through text. So I have a friend. He's gay, and his sister is actually a lesbian. It's one of those families where they're both siblings are gay. The mom knows that the sister's a lesbian, but she does not know her full grown son of 30 years old is gay. And I said, well, why is that? He goes, anytime she talks about my sister, she talks about lesbians as they're family oriented, they get kids, they're loving, and she thinks all gay people do is have sex. So he's never felt the need to tell her, well, I'm gay because of the way she views both of them. Um, but here's the question to you. So, Harold, this question, who wants to answer the question first, Dave or Harold?
Doesn't matter.
All right, Harold. The question is, can you please tell Harold, and this might be hard for you, how can you be black and a conservative?
Well, I mean, I have certain things I have conservative values as it relates to certain things. But when I look at conservatism, I don't think many people know and fully understand what that means. Because I grew up when both parties had a conservative wing to it. You were a conservative Democrat, you could be a moderate Democrat, or you could be a progressive or, highly or more liberal Democrat. Likewise with the Republican Party, a moderate conservative, you know, extreme conservative, or a liberal Republican. So, or more liberal as a Republican. So, but my thing is them understanding. I look at policies. We can make excuses because many people think because they go to church they're conservative, and so that's the misnomer that or misunderstanding that many people have as it relates to being conservative and what it really means. My thing is if you have certain, I'm all about what's right and what's wrong. I think we miss the mark when we focus on other things. Okay, is this, for example, policy going to hurt us or help people? Is it going to do good or is it going to do bad? Is it going to help or is it going to harm? And I think when we lose sight of all of this conservative versus liberal versus all this other foolishness, then we can get to the brass tacks of making sure we have people that are going to do the things that are necessary to improve our communities, to improve our individual conditions, and hopefully move the needle forward if we want to make America.
I also find it crazy when you can only be one thing. I mean, there are certain topics that I have a progressive mindset to, and there are other topics where my mindset is a little more conservative. You can be fluid, but people act like you can't be these days. You have to be one or the other.
Well, when people ask me what I am, I never said I'm a Democrat. I always say I'm a progressive conservative. Because I have some conservative values, but I'm very progressive in most of the other areas of my life.
So
Hey,
basically, you're trying to make people's head explode.
Hey, boof. If that's what needs to happen, boom. I'm sorry.
Smiling because I love that. I wish I thought of that.
Dave gave me a new one. When people go, "What are you?" I say, "I'm a Rockefeller Republican," and they go, "What the
Oh,
hell
Lord,
is that?"
have mercy. What the heck is that?
That's my family is what that is. It's called Wall Street Republicans. And Colin Powell claimed to be a Rockefeller Republican.
Yeah, Colin Powell. Donald
Explicitly.
Trump had some things to say about him when he died. That guy, he was a piece of work. And he didn't have the dementia then, Dave. Might be in the onset. So, Dave, the question for you is everyone wants to know, because we haven't done this in a while, but they want to know because it's the same thing that typically happens. A war starts, it's in the news every day, every second, and then it starts to die down a year or two in, and no one's paying attention to it except for people who, desire to pay attention to that subject. But what is it looking like for Ukraine? Is this is still dragging on?
Well, it is, but it is dragging on, and it is there. And I got to tell you, the overall situation is, to my mind, Russia is really close to being to breaking. And I think this is something that we aren't really paying attention to, right? The discussion is, the narrative is always that Russia's making advances because Russia has really put a full national effort into crushing a much smaller nation. And so they have been pushing, and they get a few meters. So technically they make gains, and they're very good at claiming to make gains.
Messaging?
And their messaging is always on target because Western media picks it up, right? And they will say Russia continues to make advances. And the thing is, though, they have been trying to take certain cities now for it. I think they've been trying to take Pokrovsk for, it's coming up on 2 years. It's definitely way over a year. And they've been trying to get in there, and they look like they'd surrounded it and they infiltrated, but now they're not so much. And so they're really having trouble. But here are some very specific things that are happening that lead me to make, I'm kind of going more out on a limb than normal on this. They're having this problem. They are now they're coming to a point where they are no longer able to offer the big bonuses for enlistment, right? So this has come out that they're no longer going to be offering these huge benefits, because one way they've been able to get people to the front, to mobilize people, is they have just been offering extremely high pay for Russia and death benefits that are way beyond what people, especially because remember, Russia has a lot of areas that are basically developing nations. They're out in the eastern part of the country, and they have been getting a lot of non-ethnic Russians to sign up.
Well, Dave, another thing they're doing is they're sending people have gone to court. I've been watching that on YouTube. People have gone to court, and in lieu of jail time, they go to the front lines.
Right. And so the thing is that the first point is their system has largely been based on these massive incentives. They're no longer able to afford them, and they're going to stop giving them. So they're going to run into manpower problems because that's what's been fueling them. They only got so many criminals. They got to get people to volunteer. And also, where people go and die, the people, like, hey, they got paid, so they made their choice, and so that's a problem. Russia has started selling off its gold, which is a big indicator. They hold on to very large reserves of gold, and they've now been selling these things off. And by some reckonings, they've sold about half of their reserves off. And that's a shift in behavior. The price of oil has cratered, uh, largely because Saudi Arabia has flooded and OPEC have flooded production. It's not because we're drilling. No, we're not drill babying drilling. Our rig count's actually gone down a little bit in the U.S., but the price of oil is a big part of where Russia gets its money. And so also recently, their economy they've been propping up the defense sector, starving the other sectors. They have an interest rate. Their prime rate is 21%, right? I mean, because they're holding off inflationary pressure, and they're just running out of resources. And then finally, very recently, Putin, they claimed that they'd taken Kupiansk, right, a city in Luhansk, and they actually right now have a bunch of guys who made it into the city, took pictures of themselves, took selfies basically with Russian flags. They're now completely surrounded by Ukrainians. But they claimed they had the city. Putin said, yeah, to reporters, hey, come on in and, let's go. And you can see, and the person who went in was Zelensky. Zelensky goes into the city and and so now the Russians are claiming it's a deep fake, and but their own people are outing him, and so he has shit the bed, to use that term again, with his messaging. And so I think we're seeing, also they're running out of time. They've been on the edge for a long time, but these are some signs that they really are in the next few months. When those enlistment bonuses go, within 6 months, they got a manpower problem, and they're not going to be able to keep these offensives up. Ukraine has shown it's been able to hold the line. Europe is on board with them. And what all we've got is the US running around with incompetent negotiators in the form of Steve Witkoff, and we're trying to negotiate a better deal for Russia, and Putin is like, no, I'm not compromising at all. And so we have this situation where I really feel that US actions are incoherent at best, right? Why are you doing this? And also, if you just push on this guy, then they're about to break. And if you don't need to break them, but you need to say, hey, you're definitely going to break. Instead, it's hang on a little longer. Trump will negotiate with Zelensky some more. We'll get more concessions. And so I think that strategically, this situation, the front lines are all stable right now. Ukraine has got this for the foreseeable future. They do have problems with energy. They do have a lot of things. But the big thing about Ukraine, if ever they start to really crumble, the Europeans are coming in. I mean, that to me, this is the thing that is left unsaid. The Europeans have talked about deploying troops. And I'm saying, look, if they ever start really falling, Europe's coming off the bench, and they are going to smoke. They will smoke Russia like a cheap cigar.
That sounds great, but as a human, it just makes me sick that we just how many more people have to die before we decide Ukraine is crumbling? Let's go stop it. And it's like, well, it's just human lives. It's not that big a deal, right? Chris says, how can anyone take Russia or Putin seriously when they can't even take Ukraine? Putin is a clown. Hey, Chris. Small countries are hard to take. Did you not see Macaulay Culkin fight off two grown-ass adults in Home Alone? Okay? Did you not see that? Because it's Christmas time. I wanted to tie that in there because I thought that made sense. All right.
Yeah, look how long it took us to take over Iraq.
Yeah.
We took the country. Yeah, and by the way, the mission accomplished banner, that's when we took it.
We took
Now, the
the country.
counterinsurgency, that was another problem.
We took the country in 2 hours, and then it was
Right. I mean, it's easy to take the country. It's hard to
Yeah.
hold it, but these jokers can't even take it.
Yeah,
You know, that's
taking
the
one
point.
thing and holding it is two different things. That's why they say, well, if somebody ever conquered the U.S., if you ever had enough manpower to take the U.S., you still ain't going to hold it,
All the countries of Europe with all the treasure of the world could not by force make a trek on the Blue Ridge or take a drink from the Ohio River.
They couldn't. You know why? Because
That's
a lot of
Abraham
people
Lincoln
don't understand. Yeah. You know what? I forgot what comedian said it. It says these foreign countries that think they can invade the U.S. has never been to Alabama. Go down there. Everybody has a shotgun. But anyway, it's our last show for the year. What does it say? Too many guns in the USA. Yep. Too many guns. I remember when Independence Day came out and that was the big movie of the summer. Did you ever see Independence Day back in the day? And they had the news clip in the movie where the LA gangs were shooting at the UFOs. That's what would happen, man. But anyway, last show of the year. Thank you guys. We got another year coming up. He's still here. So Dave promised he'd be gone by the end of the year, and he's not.
I did not.
I know you
I did not promise that.
I know.
The guy that I credit with some prediction, again, it's just a theory, it's 3 to 5 months now.
You know who we haven't heard from a lot in the last 3 months? Harold, where the hell has JD Vance been?
He was in Pennsylvania.
I almost said something.
He hasn't been.
I would say
been around. I know where he's been.
Look for the widow. That's all I'm going to say.
He's at Erica Kirk's house. That's right.
I didn't say that. I just said look for the widow. That's all I said.
You don't have to say it. We all know that's where he's been. He hasn't been defending his wife. I'll tell you that. All right. Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy
He's the one that's been shooting shots at his wife and hitting her on the side of the head. Oh,
how you going to say that in the middle of my Happy Kwanzaa?
Well, that's what happened. My bad.
Hey, Dave, you know what he's doing right now? Harold's being that uncle at Thanksgiving who just says stuff in the middle.
Well, I want what Dave got in his cup. I need what Dave has in his cup.
Yeah, what's in that cup, Dave? It's not
he's the fun uncle. He's the funkle.
It's not eggnog in that
not by a long shot. Tickle the back of your throat. That's what it does.
Hey, let's just show everyone that we can actually say Merry Christmas. That we it's
Merry Christmas
without Trump.
No, we can't. No.